Pathfinder 2 has specific rules for recall knowledge on monster traits and abilities. D&D doesn't. Let's fix that. Hey everybody, I'm Alan and I've been playing D&D for nearly 40 years. I've played from the Red Box Basic Edition all the way to the 5th edition, and hopefully that gives me advantage on insight and lore around D&D. However, this is my first adventure into YouTube outside of this channel's live play, so let me know how I do in the comments, or leave a like. Let's get started. Recall knowledge is a skill players in Pathfinder 2e use to recall information from their past. Much like a general history roll in 5e, it can be used to recall knowledge about obscure philosophies, ancient mysteries, unusual places, people, or events. But I'm mostly interested in recalling knowledge about monsters. Imagine your paladin is slinking through a cold, wet ravine. The sword of their father, willed to them, grasped tightly in their hand, its ancient ruins casting a yellow glow along the wall. The magic of their ancestors leads the way. It's then that the ruin light glides over a mass of shadow that lay thin over the ravine wall. They freeze, holding their breath, realizing this shadow is moving slightly, quivering. What could this be? What will happen to their weapon if they attack? These are perfect situations for recall knowledge. In Pathfinder 2e, each monster has a specific recall knowledge value from a chart based on the creature's level and how rare the monster is. Like this Elder Sphinx, a level 16 creature that is rare. That's why it has such a high recall knowledge rate. Of course, Pathfinder's numbers are very different from 5e. The recall knowledge roll uses different skills for different types of monsters. For example, to recall knowledge about a dragon, you'd use the Pathfinder Arcana skill, and for Oozes, you'd use Occultism. I kind of like Occultism, it's a cool skill. Success will typically allow a character to know the creature's best known attribute, like that black pudding can destroy your ancient magical sword. On a critical success, the character learns something less well known, something subtle the DM thinks will be interesting. The character can retry to get even more information, but only if they succeed on their first roll. And each additional step is substantially more difficult. And if they fail at any point, they're done. The best part of recall knowledge in Pathfinder is that it's an action, so it can be done during combat. Now, Pathfinder uses a much more kind of versatile 3-action economy, so maybe this is a good place for a bonus action. Now, we've been talking about Pathfinder, but what some people might not know is that Paizo didn't really come up with recall knowledge in its current form anyway. In fact, it comes from a different source, a darker source, from the D&D version that shall not be named.
Silence! Don't use that name.
That's right. Paizo borrowed recall knowledge from D&D 4th edition. Now, the evidence is circumstantial, but I'm going with it. Published way back in 2008, 4th edition didn't win over the fan base, but 4th edition has some fantastic game mechanics in certain spots. It's worth looking into if you are ever interested. And one of them is something called Monster Knowledge Checks. See, it's all here, including DCs for what you could know, as well as a chart outlining what monster types, which 4th edition called Origins, matched which skills. So D&D doesn't have to borrow from Pathfinder, it can just borrow from its past. So let's define recall knowledge for D&D 5th edition, specifically around recalling monster lore, though you can use it for other things. To start, let's categorize the 14 D&D monster types into D&D skills we can use to roll our recall knowledge. Here you can see we're going to use the 4 intelligence-based skills used in 5th edition. They are Arcana, History, Nature, and Religion. And I've put them into different categories based on what I think works best, and I use the 4th edition list and the list from Pathfinder to come up with a strategy. So this is my best guess. If you have a better way to mix those up, that's cool. Do it that way. So for Arcana, I have Constructs, Dragons, Monstrosities, and Oozes. For history, I have Aberrations and Humanoids. For nature, beasts, of course, fae, giants, plants, obviously. Here I stuck elementals in nature. I just thought the whole idea of elementals with the natural order, with the fire and the water and everything, just seemed to play very well. So I stuck in there. You can also stick them in Arcana if you want. That's kind of up to you. Finally, religion has celestials, all the fiends like demons and devils and what have you, and the undead. The DCs for 4th edition monster knowledge checks were based on their tier, which is kind of segments of a level, with no real mention of rarity. That's good for us because rarity in D&D monsters kind of ended in 2nd edition. So for 5th edition, we'll ignore the rarity part and focus on the monster's challenge rating. We'll use a base DC of 10 plus 1/2 the monster CR, minimum 11 to start. Then, only if the character passes their previous roll can they make another roll to recall even more knowledge. However, the next recall knowledge after the first will add +4 to the DC, and so on until the character fails. Every time, +4, +4, +4. It won't take long until they're going to max out what they can do. Just remember, nat 20s don't automatically succeed in skill checks. But if they do succeed while rolling a nat 20, give them something extra, a second piece of knowledge, a second piece of lore, something that makes their natural 20 mean something. Finally, if you want to make recall knowledge really fun, make the check a bonus action. Maybe the druid wants to know if that creature is immune to lightning before they cast Call Lightning. Bonus actions are fun for the players, but they can also limit when a player can shout out questions during combat to the DM, which is kind of nice. So it kind of works for both parties. If a character is actually wondering about some specific knowledge, like if a creature is immune to fire, I say give them that knowledge if they succeed on the check, instead of something random or something from the stat block. Otherwise, start with the most potent power and the most interesting feature and work backwards for each success. Don't forget to increase the DC each time. That's important. I also might suggest phrasing the response as a moment from their past for color. Like if your player comes up and says, were-rats, huh? What do I know about were-rats? I don't know. They're humanoids, but also shape changers, so give me a history roll. Okay, cool. I got a 13. In your time working on the docks as a youth, the harbor master had warned of were-rats. They cannot be harmed by weapons that are not magical or silver. Ha! I knew I would be holding on to this magical weapon scroll for a reason. Gives them a chance to figure out if they're going to use some of their skills or some of their more limited powers before the combat starts or even during the combat. So let's look at an example using the Behir. So as you can see here, the Behir has a monstrosity. So with that, we're going to use Arcana. It's a CR 11, so the DC for recalling knowledge starts at 15 and will be 4 higher if they want to go a second or third round each time. So 15, then 19, then 23. And the greatest power from the Behir probably would be the lightning breath, I'm guessing, though swallow or constrict could be equally sinister depending on what your characters like or fear. Also, don't dismiss immunities, especially if you have a character heavily invested in like fire spells or poison damage. If they're going to make the check, I say let them know what's going on. So there you have it. We have Pathfinder's Recall Knowledge, or is that 4th edition's Monster Knowledge in our game? We have an easy guide for determining skills, the DC, and a recommendation for what to reward. Please like this video if you had any fun. Comment below on what you liked or might change about this. I'll read and respond to every comment. Share this with others who might like to have some guidelines for recall knowledge. Again, this is my first video on D&D. There will be more on D&D, also Pathfinder and gaming in general. This channel also has been doing weekly live plays for the past year. Our group, which has been together for 20 years, just started 5e really for the first time last year, but we had a long history of gaming, of course. So subscribe if you like any of those topics or anything like that sounds fun. Until next time, happy gaming. Bye.